Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be changing a kitchen faucet, which is a common handyman task. Simple tool, should go pretty quick. With most kitchen faucets, you're lucky if you get more than 15 years out of it. With the cheap ones, more like 5 or 10. So it's very common to have to change them out. If you look at this faucet, see various things wrong with it. First of all, it's dripping. It's generally dated style, kind of chewed up. The set screw is almost stripped out of the handle, so it's really wobbly and sometimes it comes off completely. Those are things we could fix. We could, retap the set screw, put some Loctite on it. We could change the packing so it wouldn't drip. But just a generally dated style. And then when you turn it on, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, the water is coming out of the barrel of the faucet, the spigot, not out of just the end. So basically the structural integrity is gone. It's not worth messing with. We're going to put a new one in. So been down to the friendly local home store. Got a new set. Should have everything we need in it. Nothing too fancy. Just your basic 2-knob setup. Comes with the hardware. Now, before you get started, these are the tools you should have within easy reach. May not use all of them, but if you need them, you want them to be handy. Channel locks, pretty much the most common tool you'll use for household plumbing. We're going to be using those to undo the supply lines and possibly to deal with the garbage disposal. Some sort of screwdriver. This is the kind with the interchangeable bits, so it's like 4 screwdrivers in one or 6 in one, something like that. Some kind of scraper to get the gunk out from under the old faucet. Smallish crescent wrench, also useful if we have to adjust the packings on the supply lines. And then unique to this job, you need this, which is called a basin wrench. This will allow you to undo the nuts under the faucet. This is kind of a cheap one. They come in different styles, but this is all I've ever found I needed. They have them with telescoping handles and some different styles. So get those tools together, and then what they're laying on is a scrap of carpet. You're going to want a scrap of carpet or a rug or a tarp or something to roll up under you to save your back while you're working under there. Another thing you'll probably want, some kind of flashlight, just so you can see what's going on. So get those tools together and then we'll be ready to do our faucet. Okay, I've pretty well cleared out under the sink now, which, by the way, is the hardest part of this job, is clearing all the junk out from under the sink. There's a couple things I noticed right off the bat. One is the P-trap is cracked right here and has been dripping, apparently for a long time. Unfortunately, I don't have a spare on the truck, but that's a really easy thing to find in a hardware store. So, one more trip to the hardware store. We'll get that later. And then the other thing is the garbage disposal is sort of right smack in the way of everything. Now, I'm a skinny guy. I could work under that, but I'm also a lazy guy, and garbage disposals come out really easy. So I'm just going to move that out of the way while I work. So it's only this, you undo this one nut, and then it's on a kind of a quick release ring. See if you just rotate that ring, you shove a screwdriver in there, and it should come right out for us. And that's in there pretty good. So. There it goes. And you can see how loose that drain assembly is. So hardwired in, so we can't take it completely out just right now. We'll just set it to the side. And there'll still be more room to get in there. Oh yeah. We're going to get to redo that drain today. Okay, so here I am under the sink. Still getting dripped on a little bit, but looking at the underside of the faucet, this is one of the real simple ones where everything comes up through the middle. So all we're going to do is undo these lines and these nuts. We'll use the basin wrench for that. And this should be a real easy one to get out. Now sometimes on the old ones, it'll be like big metal nuts that are really corroded. And then now and then you need to take a hacksaw blade or a grinder or a chisel to them. But thankfully none of that's going to go on with this sink. Should be a pretty easy job. So here's the top side view. Everything's disconnected from the bottom. You just got to kind of ease those connectors out. And there's bottom view. Pull this out. Now you can see how gross that is. So, we didn't use any caulk, which is good from a cleaning it standpoint. Still lots of grody corrosion and just grime. You take a damp rag. Get it relatively clean. Don't want to scratch up the sink too much, except like right under the faucets. Gotta be a little careful. Then we get the new unit. Test fit it, sort of see that the holes line up. These are standard, but still, old houses, you always want to do a reality check. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Okay. And now what you want to do is you want to just take some silicone and squirt it all along the base here. It doesn't take much, just enough to get a good seal. This is sort of an optional step, not everyone does it. But silicone will just keep water from getting in between there, making a mess. It'll stick everything together just a little more. So if you have it, or if you can get a little tube at the hardware store, you should put it on there. See, just a little bit like that. Get it in there, get it relatively lined up. Now I've got the nuts, I'm just going to go underneath and tighten it down. So when you're doing these nuts, they don't need to be wickedly tight, just about as tight as handyman fingers can make them. And the one thing you don't want to do is gronk down too hard on them and break the nut, because that's another trip to the hardware store. If you can find that nut. Sometimes they're weird sizes. So, this is the end of the sprayer. That just sort of plugs in. And then all you need to do is hook up the supply lines. Tricky thing there being to make sure that you get the hot and cold on the right side. So you just sort of start it by hand, and then you'll come back with the crescent wrench and tighten it down. There's the hot. Now, if these lines are cruddy, this would be a good time to replace them. It looks like someone just did these in the last couple of years, so we're good to go. But some of the old ones are pretty screwed up. And if the threads aren't good, you want to use some Teflon tape. But like I said, these are almost new. They're going to new brass threads, so I don't think it'll be necessary, especially because there's a little washer in the end. So I'll just tighten those down with my wrench, and then this job is basically done. Okay, remember to clean up any squeezed out silicone. Looks like there's not too much on this. It's a good thing I have extra silicone, because I think I'm going to come back later and scrape out some of that old stuff and redo it, because it looks pretty gross, but that's a different project. Well, we've got the new faucet installed, but before we can check it for leaks, we need to do something about this drain. So you're actually getting a little bonus lesson here. It's not just reinstalling a kitchen faucet, but also dealing with sink drains. Now, I've pulled out the whole unit, and you can kind of see the failure points. Right here, where the sink strainer fit, that steel part is just rusted off. You can see there, just right, this threaded part should be part of this, and it's rusted and just completely broken. That's why it's good to have plastic or bronze on something that's going to have water sitting on it all the time, because steel will rust, will die. That gave it a degree of freedom, so that let it wiggle, which broke this plastic collar on the P-trap. You see that's just completely broken off. So, no big deal. I ran to the hardware store, got a new strainer assembly, another P-trap, and so I'm just going to real quick put that stuff in. Well, I had to get pretty rough with that slip collar. I did get it out of there though, although it involved a little judicious cly hammer and screwdriver action. Want to be really careful. But now the rest of this should go pretty easily. We're just going to take this slip fitting out so that we can replace the collar with the one that goes to our new strainer. And that should just be channel lock work. So this does bronze on bronze, but doesn't get nearly as corroded. Yep, comes right off. It's bronze to steel that you always had to worry about, because there's galvanic action between the unlike metals. So we got that off. Let's try to save this gasket, this collar. But we take off this because this was for the old strainer. Put on the new one, just like that. And then we can put the slip fitting back together. Drains need to be watertight, but they don't need to be pressure tight. So, just in general, you don't need to be as careful with them. Watch now, you're going to go mangle your drains because I told you didn't have to be careful. You got to be a little careful. Just not as careful as you do with supply lines. So that's ready to receive our new strainer. Now on the other side, these drain assemblies are made to fit different sizes of pipe, so you're very likely going to have extra pieces. Don't freak out. Those are just the pieces you would use if it was other sizes of pipe. Most of these are either 1.5 inch or 1.25 inch. this one is 1.5 inch, which is the more typical size for kitchen sinks. Usually bathrooms are 1/4. With old houses, you run into all sorts of strange stuff, so you never really know what to expect until you get in there. But there's our assembly. It's all put together. It's got the new plastic ends, and I'm just going to go under and put it back. Okay, I've got the drain hanging kind of loose in the inside there. You can see it's, you leave everything loose until you get it in place, then you tighten it down. You can see there's lots of old putty and stuff in the sink. Just going to scrape that away. Go through a lot of rags with this kind of work. Okay. And then, once again, you want to put a little bead of silicone all the way around. Focus. Autofocus there on my camera is getting a little confused. But you want to put a bead of silicone all the way around, and then you can just match up your drain and screw the bottom. Okay, I've got my drains put back together. Got my new faucet. It's looking pretty good. Couple last things now that everything's together. You want to unscrew the aerator from the end. The screen, you might call it. Set that aside. That way if there's any little bits of like manufacturing debris or dust in there, I'm not going to clog the screen at the end. Set that aside, and then I have the supply taps back on. So I'm just going to let it flush out for a second. Alright. Let the air out of the sprayer. All seems to be working pretty well. Shuts off like we want it to. All good so far. And then you just want to, for the last step, you want to take a dry tissue and just run it around underneath, and it'll get wet if there's any leaks. And then if you can just need to tighten stuff down, but shouldn't need to if you were careful to begin with. So that's that. That's the project. Got our new sink done. We got to repair some drains, and I hope this will be helpful to you when you do your own home plumbing. So have a good one. Until next time.